चिंता ऐसी डाकिनी काट कलेजा खाए, वैद बेचारा क्या करे, कहाँ तक दवा लगाए कबीरा, कहाँ तक दवा लगाए। चिंता ऐसी डाकिनी काट कलेजा खाए, वैद बेचारा क्या करे, कहाँ तक दवा लगाए कबीरा, कहाँ तक दवा लगाए। Don't worry. Worry will destroy you. Worry is such a bandit. Dakini. It eats into one's heart. What can the poor doctor do? What remedy to impart? Kaha tak dawa lagaye kabira. वैद बेचारा क्या करे, काट कलेजा खाए. Just destroys you inside out. It destroys. So worry will destroy you. Now, the most important principle which governs this, the message in this Doha, the principle is that it is the subtle that controls the gross. Many people don't understand it, so they embark on various practices to calm the mind or control the mind. Here we understand that when he says Vaid bichara kya kare, what can the doctor do, referring to what extent can the grass, which is the medical attention to the physical body, take care of the mental state, which causes great concern because of its very restless nature. So you can't control the mind, which is subtle, with the gross, which is medicine. The physical body cannot control a mind, and mind cannot control the intellect. So the body cannot control the mind cannot control the intellect. So it's only the intellect that controls the mind, and it's the mind that controls the body. If you want to extend it further, it's the body that is drawn to the sense objects. It is not the sense objects that draw the body to it. It doesn't draw you towards it. No sense object can tempt you if you have a control over it. So what I'm trying to establish is subtle controls the gross. So it's the intellect, the mind, and the body. Now, what we need to understand and establish is it is the very nature of the mind to worry. It is swabhava, it is its very nature. When we say worries of the past. So when we say the nature of the mind is it's constantly it is never in the present. When the architect designed it, he designed it that way. So you can't do anything, I can't do anything about it. So don't complain. Your mind is like that, my mind is like that, everybody's mind. I can do any years of sadhana, tapas, but you can't change the nature. Other day I saw a photograph of a tiger when they shared the fur, all the streaks which you see on a tiger skin, it is not on the fur, it's actually on the skin. So even if you shear off the fur or whatever the hair it covers, is actually on the skin. So you can't. It is there. It's there. It comes from there. So it is the very innate nature of the mind. You can't change it. If you can't change it, then how am I to keep it in the present? The only way you can keep it in the present is to have a constant awareness, a constant alertness, a constant supervision to ensure it doesn't slip. So the moment you relax your intellectual alertness and awareness, your mind slips. Take that for granted. So you can't change its nature. That's the very swabhava of the mind. Asthira and chanchala. So if you don't have a strong intellect that can keep the mind in its place, it is very likely that the mind will wander. And worry is such a bandit. It eats you, it destroys you, it kills you. In fact, one of the biggest diseases in the world today is related to the mind, far greater than COVID. It's the biggest pandemic which has been consuming mankind is the mental disease. And sadly, humanity doesn't have a solution for that. I would dare to say there's one problem, there's one solution. The humanity is groping and searching in the darkness to find a solution. The problem is one, the mind is a problem, an uncontrolled mind, I would say. And the solution is you've got to have this knowledge which will develop your intellect. Now, why I keep saying is every human is born with it, is bestowed with it. You don't attend to it, you don't develop it. It becomes in a dilapidated state. It becomes useless, redundant. It's not that this knowledge is meant for only a certain class of people. No doubt it is intellectual and caters to a certain bracket. But the fact that you're born as a human and the fact that you have an equipment called the intellect, you got to use it. To the extent you got to engage it, isn't it? It's like we all are born with the physical body. We all have the physical body. If I don't exercise it, what would happen? The physical body would not serve me well, isn't it? It becomes a burden even to look at myself. What have I done of myself? Everything is a pain. Everything is a problem. My back is hurting. My leg is hurting. Everything is hurting. Why? Because I have not taken care of it. But if you have kept it in well repair, if you have done all what it needed from day one, it shall serve you well, isn't it? It will serve you well. So the intellect, when is given the right sadhana, the exercise, it has the strength to control the mind. If not, you can't control it. There's a bichara, kya kare? What can a doctor do? Doctor can only give you prescription of sleeping pills. You go back to him, sir, I'm taking 50 mg, but I'm not able to sleep. Okay, make 100 mg. That's all he'll do. Oh, 100 mg, not able to sleep. Okay, take 2 tablets of 100 mg. He has nothing. What can he do? The gross cannot control the mind. I have had people of complaining they can't sleep, I can't sleep, unable to sleep. In fact, there's a saying, we are constantly living in our minds. We don't live in the worlds. Your world is defined by where your mind is. We're constantly living in our own minds. We are not living in the worlds. So the question is, where is your mind? How healthy is your mind? So what Kabirji said then perhaps is far more relevant today than then, because the state of mental affairs is very unhealthy now than then, perhaps, because society those days was far more sattvic, isn't it? As we evolved, we have spiritually devolved. As time and history has passed and humanity has evolved in terms of science and technology, spiritually we are devolving, and that is reflecting in the mental ill health. So one of the very important qualities, in fact, we talk in corporate workshops, we say work-life balance. Everybody has this challenge of work-life balance. One of the important, okay, let me ask you all of us have multi-roles to play, and we have to do justice and give our best to those roles we play. But how do we bring about that balance, whether it be at work or at home or wherever you are? What's that quality you need to practice to bring about that work-life balance? I want to tap that wealth of wisdom of Kashish and ask her, with all your experience, Kashish, can you please tell us how to practice work-life balance?
Guruji, the only thing I can think of is practicing setting boundaries.
And how do you do that?
First, you have to do that internal self-reflection and understand your limits and your capabilities. And understand like how many hours you can work without being tired, and how many, like what your limit is for fulfilling your duties, but at the same time not losing sight of yourself and looking after yourself and your own self-worth and self-growth. And then after you learn that, place strong boundaries around what work needs to be done, and say like, okay, I have this many hours to do the work, and whatever I get done in that time is done, and whatever I can't get done, I leave it. I will come back to it next time. And then obviously easier said than done. Then you allocate time for your personal life, and that way I guess like setting those boundaries maybe helps create the grooves in your brain for your mind to like practice letting go of things you can't control, because you are strict with yourself, you don't negotiate, I guess, and that way the boundaries are strict.
Go on.
And then and hopefully you set a habit, and then you can keep to the habit.
Keep to the habit, yes. Very nice, very nice, yes. I like the way you said you got to set those boundaries and don't compromise. Easier said than done, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
Many a time what happens is we get involved. The biggest problem in bringing in a work-life balance is one gets involved and gets carried away in whatever he or she does. So it's rather difficult to give your 100% and yet get not carried away with it. You know. So, but Kashish, I'm afraid I'm still searching for that one quintessential statement which would help me practice or arrest this quality of the mind, which makes it very difficult to bring about that balance in life. Now, it's that quality. It's actually a weakness where you get carried away. It could be work, it could be family, it could be any vocation you're involved with, you can get carried away and get lost in it. Right. No, that's nice. That's something I've learned. Not to, what do you use the word? I don't know. I want to talk to Kashish and they're muting Kashish. I don't know why is that happening?
Sorry.
In fact, I don't want to talk to anybody else. I only want to talk to Kashish. I wait for this day so that I can talk to others. All of them are, what, Harish, am I right?
Yes, Guruji.
You also long, isn't it?
I do.
Yeah. Now Australia is open, no? We can go. Kashish, we are coming.
Okay, come. I'll take you everywhere.
Harish, you also will come, no?
I
We
shall.
both will plan. We both will plan.
Sounds like a good plan.
Don't let it be planning going on. We have to start acting also sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, Harish has had many plans with me, and then COVID came. Everything has gone into the.
Correct.
So what I've learned is not to worry of all those plans. So many plans we have made. Correct. So Harish, so since you're, what is that quality to practice to bring that work-life balance?
Guruji, I don't have the specific word that I'm not able to, maybe I'm not able to answer that question that looking at a specific quality. I do remember us maybe many months ago in the class, or my grandfather used to tell me there's 24 hours a day. So just evenly split your work-life balance during those hours a day. I know I cannot answer your specific question, but I'm trying to understand it through other means, that there's 8 hours of work, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours of recreation, and 8 hours of sleep. And we've been told that there are 3 pies in a day to balance. That's what comes to my mind.
Right. I understand. I appreciate that. All right. Okay. Hirenji, good to have you back, sir. Buliye, sir.
Sorry. Good to be back. How are you, everybody? I think what we talked about right now is mastering the mind, or control of the mind. That's the only way. And it's easier to say it than done. Kashish said very clearly, during my working life, that is what I was struggling all the time. They give us, the company always used to talk about work-life balance, and they will introduce a certain new things, which vividly remember a mobile phone, BlackBerry came in. And that made me and many of my colleagues almost like a slaves of the company. Before I go to sleep, 11 o'clock, I just quickly look at it, what's happening, kind of a thing. And I find that there's something, if I answer, it will help the people back in India or somewhere else in the world with that email. And I used to get into that. And that is a lack of control of mine. But I found again, if it benefits somewhere, someplace, with a little bit of my 5 minutes extra time, I thought it was positive that time, but that is how we lose our control of mind.
I can understand how the world starts creeping into our lives, isn't it? Now it's consumed our lives. You're talking of the days when BlackBerry came to you. Now you're born with it. Now everybody is born with it, So even in the cradle, they're using it. So
yeah.
So the quality that helps to bring about that work-life balance, one quality. All right. Now I know you've experienced it, all of us experience it, but how to snap it, how to get out of it, how to implement it. Okay. Wonderful, G. Arpit.
The one word that comes to mind is prioritization. I don't know if that's the word you're looking for.
No, mute
Okay.
RPG.
Next.
No, no. Did you mute yourself or they muted you? That was very quick.
I muted myself.
You don't have to be so harsh on yourself. We will do what is needed.
No, not harsh.
Ah.
Efficient.
Oh, efficient. Yeah, good. That's nice. You know? No, you may have the priorities. Like Hirenji said, you know, you look into something and he feels perhaps someone needs that piece of information or approval or something coming from my end. You know, you may think it's a priority, but then the world creeps into you and consumes you. You know. That doesn't really help. I can get where you're coming from, but that doesn't really help to practice that, bring about the balance. In fact, if you're all thinking along with the very context of the verse, I'm very much in the context of the Doha. If you get back to the context, you'll get the answer. You get the answer. Okay. Right. Yeah, Hariji.
Guruji, you have taught us that the subtle controls the gross. If we take the different koshas, Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, that means the Pranamaya kosha is grosser than the Manomaya kosha, because it is coming inside. But when we are mentally agitated, then we have been told that you try to take a deep breath. And we practice sometimes deep breath. And so that we will become mentally calm. Is there any contradiction here, or is my understanding wrong?
In fact, what you're establishing is what the Doha and what the concept is. The grass cannot control the subtle. In the context of, I'm sorry, I got your question.
Yeah.
Let me clarify it. And if you still have something, I'll hear from you.
Okay.
We're talking about the 5 koshas. The koshas, the grossest is Annamaya kosha, which is the body.
Yeah.
Then comes the, see, you know, you're asking a question, Hariji, you know, you're asking a question which is taking the entire class in a different tangent.
Okay, then no.
Even before I finish the question. So please bear in mind or keep in mind that we have to go with the flow, because I can switch gas. I don't know how many of them can switch gas. Finally, you say kosha, or are we talking? Oh my God, are we?
No. I meant only the concept of subtle controlling the gross.
Yes. But I would request if we can keep with the thought flow.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, then
so
we will.
If you can just hold on for a moment, I can come back to the question after we address what we have been just clarifying. Okay. So that everybody again doesn't have to switch.
Agreed.
I hope we have lost the focus. Okay, sir.
Okay, agreed.
Okay, right. Thank you. Right. I'll come back to it certainly. Okay.
No, it's okay. Right. Even later. No, it's okay.
No, I'll certainly address it. So the question we are asking is how to bring about that work-life balance. We've had few inputs. Situji. Hariom.
Being in the present, keeping the mind in present, the way actor in a play who plays a number of multiple roles, but he switches from role to role without lingering on the previous role. Same way we have to whatever role we play in the work-life balance, we have to give 100% to that.
Absolutely right. That's the key. The how to bring about the work-life balance depends on the capacity to keep your mind in the present. And that depends on the capacity to control the mind. If you are not able to keep the mind in the present, what happens is I come back from work, as Hirenji said, late in the night, I just pick up the phone just to see, and then there's a flood of messages and emails and that I have to work at or respond to. But it's not an emergency. It's not that the building is under fire and I got to respond to it. But if I'm able to say, no, I have got nothing to do it, as Kashish so said, beautifully said, let go of it. Just drop that. I got to be here. Now it's time for me to be with my family, or I'm winding up a long day. I need to give myself the necessary rest. I need to switch off. I need to disconnect with all that has happened during the day. So you are able to keep the mind in the present. So when I'm with the family, I got to be with the family. When I'm at the dining table, I got to be on the dining table. I remember one of my colleagues went up to Swamiji and asked, Swamiji, I'm having very disturbed bowels, and I don't know why he went up to ask Swamiji. You should have gone to a doctor and asked. Maybe he read this doha, where the bichara kya kare, So he also felt that fellow is useless, fellow is only give treatment. That student felt there's something subtle, some problem. It's not a physical problem, some mental problem. And simple question Swamiji asked him, when you are in the washroom, where are your thoughts? Oh, Swamiji, my thoughts are all the time. I'm caught up in the difference between intrinsic illusion and extrinsic illusion. And how is the what's in Atma Bodha, what Adi Shankaracharya said, connected to what Shakespeare said in that play? How is this connected to that? All of that he's thinking while he's sitting on the pot. Right. If you think of all this when you have to spend a few minutes in the washroom to ease yourself, if your mind is occupied, how will you do what you have to do that day? Simply switch off your mind, stay in the present. And that word, miracles. So much so 30 years later, I'm still quoting to you. I still remember that. So if you all having any difficult bowel movement, remember this idea. Don't go to the doctor. He can't do anything. You have to control your mind. So whether you're sitting on a pot, whether you're even brushing your teeth, whenever you go to a dentist, he will correct you. You're not brushing your teeth correctly. Why? I know how to brush, but your mind is not applying. Even for that couple of minutes, they tell you brush your teeth for a couple of minutes. Almost put a timer and brush the teeth. Take your time. Make sure the bristles go to every corner of the teeth. Make sure you don't put much pressure. Make sure the motion is correct and rhythmic so that the particles are all clean. It is an art just to be in the moment. While I'm brushing, I'm thinking, oh, I have to go for the meeting. Suddenly your wife will come and say, hey, why is my brush wet? Oh, is it? I did use your brush. Very sorry. Please get rid of it. You don't know whose brush you're using, whose soap you're using, what is going on. Your mind is never where it's meant to be. I remember while I was being driven in Malaysia to a class, both husband and wife are doctors, and they wanted to pick me up, and so they can spend some time. Lovely people, elderly people, but very, very, very dynamic and very lovely. One day we were driving on a flyover, and I was sitting in the front, and for a moment I thought the flyover is straight. We thought we were going to take off. I almost shouted to alert him. If I did not, we would have taken off and landed some other flyover or somewhere else we would have landed. Because our friend lost his alertness. He was not keeping to his lane. We were in the center lane. It's a 3-lane highway. We were in the center lane. From the middle lane, we came to the left and almost hitting the ramp. But if we had hit at that speed, we would have just taken off. Even to keep your car in the lane requires concentration. And if your mind slips, invariably, you're not keeping to the track. I'm sure you all have experienced it. And how many people, how many of you don't think of anything else while driving? Just but drive and enjoy the driving. It becomes a, oh, only one person raised hand. Wonderful, Maniji. So keep carrying on. I keep enjoying driving. And Maniji is in Chennai. Please enjoy driving, Maniji. So every act should be respected as an action. And to eke the best out of that act, you must learn to keep the mind at that moment. So while you're driving, your mind is not there. While you're at your desk, your mind is not there. While you're with your family, your mind is not there. While you're sleeping, your mind is not cooperating. It's an infectious disease. So if you're able to bring that capacity to keep the mind in the present, not to go beyond the action, as Rajima puts it, keep your mind where your hands are. Means whatever you're doing with, whatever you're engaged with, make sure your mind is with it. I think Chinmananji said this, isn't it? I remember his famous way of answering all the context he was saying. Keep your mind where your hands are. That means just keep your mind in the present. And that's an art. So art of keeping the mind in the present is the key to managing various roles you play. As Setuji beautifully said, you manage various roles, and to bring the best out of the role to live in the present. And that's an art, and that capacity to keep the mind in the present depends on the strength of your intellect. If you don't have that strength, it is difficult to keep the mind where you want it to be. So the question is, whether is your mind the master or you are its master? Is your mind your master or are you its master? Anupji, what is the state of affairs, sir, in the world? Are we the master of the mind, or is the mind our master?
I think right now, I think I would say the other way. It's probably where the master is the outside, we are not the masters. But in terms of the time, the work-life balance, I was thinking of a song called The Time. I think it's in the Bible too, it says about time to sow, time to reap, time to pluck. So there's time for things. And so that's kind of what we need to do, is like what Setu said, be in that moment and focus on that, what you need to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything has got a time, everything has a relevance, everything has a gracious presence, isn't it? We just have to recognize that and relish it and enjoy it and be in it. Sadly, we have lost that that technique, we've lost that methodology. So as you said, the mind seems to define our life. And sadly, as I said, we are living in our minds, not in the world. And since the mind has a mind of its own, we don't know where you are. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's happening to life. It's actually subjected to a lot of onslaught. Constant, the mind is in a constant soliloquy. It's constantly going on and on and on. It doesn't rest. It's very, very sad state, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wonderful, Ji.
If you just don't separate work from life, it's part of a continuum. So work and life they go together, right?
In fact, there's one, I don't see work and life, as I very rightly said, work and life are not different things. It's just another role you are doing.
Yeah.
It's just another feather in your hat. You just have to understand that and then be true to it. I've had many parents, many people saying, I never spent the time with my kids when they were growing up because I couldn't get out of my work. I couldn't just be there for them when they needed me. Now it's too late, isn't it? So it is that capacity to say no to it, and I have to, in fact, one of the very strict rules we used to have in the ashram is no mobile phones were allowed into the dining area. So at least during that half an hour, 45 minutes you're having the prasad or the food, you will not be talking on phone and no allowed. You keep your phones outside and come in. At least that moment you're not off. At least those days there were much less mobiles and all, 30 years ago. But simple things like that, so now even at the dining table, don't talk and eat. I lost my uncle because this was 7-8 years ago, while he was eating his lunch, he was talking on a phone and a few grains got into the windpipe and that choked him. And when they examined what caused his death, they found 2 or 3 granules of rice. That's all it took to take his life away. A hale, healthy man in his late 50s. Every time I have a meal, that memory or that powerful thought comes to me. I have to concentrate. Every time you put a morsel of food in a mouth, you're told to chew 32 times just before you swallow. In fact, if you chew 32 times, automatically you'll swallow. I know people, before you start serving, they're finished. What is the rush? Every aspect of life is so beautiful. I keep telling my daughter at times, if she likes something and she's eating fast, Vaishnavi, what are you doing? What am I doing, Daddy? Are you enjoying what you're eating? Yeah, I'm enjoying. I want to eat. But don't you realize that you're just gulping it down? How many times to chew? I got it, Daddy. Then she'll just come down. Maybe she likes a vegetable and mom has prepared after a while, and she gets, I want to have. Everybody says, keep this for Vaishnavi, keep this for her. So, if you are not told this, you don't have to sit and learn Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. Simple things of life, if we are able to get along, we are able to instill this. Every aspect, this is what I'm saying, keeping the mind in the present, being aware. I have to brush my teeth, I need to do this. I have to enjoy my driving. I'm sitting on the pot, I'm doing my food, I'm doing my work. If you are able to control the mind in those innocuous moments, then the mind will listen to you in the moments when it matters most. Remember this. When you can control the mind in those seeming innocuous moments, we say, so what's the big deal backing the mind when you're brushing your teeth or eating a food or, no, it matters. It matters far more than anything else. If you can't even keep the mind in those simple moments, what makes you believe you can handle the mind in critical moments where you need to concentrate? Your mind will not cooperate. Remember me. You'll remember me when I say this. Your mind will not obey to you, will not listen to you because you have not adhered to this. It's easier to practice in those moments. So start today. Be conscious of these routine moments you go through, be it driving, be it brushing, be it bathing, be it eating. Give your 100% to it. That is the first step of trying to keep the mind in the present. Because these are routine actions you do day in and day out. And yet you don't know, you're oblivious of what your mind is up to. So it's important you understand this. And then you will find in difficult moments or moments where you have to really cut off, your mind is trained. You're able to police the mind. Arpitji is thinking, what sort of interpretation of Kabir Doha is this? I know, I can instantly read through what Arpitji is thinking.
Yeah, I just happened to glance back down at the Doha, and I was trying to make the connection, but the connection is, to me, is the word worry, right? Because the word worry. When you throw the word worry in there, you're immediately ported away from the present to some other time, some other instant.
Yeah.
So that's the and so much of life is wasted, whether it's worry or anxiety for the future, however it is. So that's the connection that, you know, and again, I didn't raise my hand earlier because often in the work world, you know, you're driving. So I'm driving this week to another location for work, and inevitably there's probably a meeting or something that's happening at the same time. And so there's an expectation, right, that you're on that call. Maybe you're not speaking, but you're listening, right? And so at some point your mind is drawn to something because, you know, it's inevitable. So, and then you worry about, well, gee, do I need to be here? What if I'm not? What's that look on my own career, et cetera, et cetera? You can go on and on and on. So, but that was where I was trying to draw the connection between, you know, where we had taken this conversation about capacity and the Doha, which is worry. Worry steals us away from this capacity to stay in the present.
Yeah. No, I can relate to it. In fact, if you follow the thought, we are not lost the thought process. We are very much on the subject matter, because the mind's tendency is to worry of the past and future, and we're talking about how to keep the mind in the present, and where are the areas you can begin by practicing to keep the mind in the present. In those seemingly innocuous moments, we're able to cultivate that quality of being there. It so enriches you. You know, how many of us, how many times just look at a sunrise or a sunset or a star or something out in nature while you're driving? It's a beautiful sunset. And at times I just, if I have the luxury, I just pull over to the side and just look at that a couple of minutes before you realize the sun is down. So it's a majestic sunset or such a glorious sunrise. How many of them have the time to even sit and admire? Say, my God, what a beautiful piece of nature. And then there's so much chaos around you. People don't even have the time, isn't it? Life has so much to offer. If you count all those moments in your life, I tell you, put all of them together, your day gets so enriched, so you're overwhelming. It becomes so beautiful. So, Arviji, just enjoy the drive and enjoy every possible scenic view, every possible tree. If it is spring, enjoy. If it is summer, enjoy. If it is winter, enjoy. If it's every moment, enjoy. Doesn't matter, the meeting will happen. Whatever has to happen will happen. Whatever you need to do, you do it, but enjoy that moment. So this is the solution, a very powerful solution. Thanks, Arpitji. A very powerful solution, how we can get into the spirit of work-life balance, where you can start practicing it, and how it can be implemented in areas where it consumes you, where to snap it and be in the present. Okay. Yes, Harish.
In the context of work-life balance, I've also observed that in many companies, big companies and corporates, there is always a sales target and quotas to meet for a lot of people. So there's a very big competition in those kind of fields of work. So when we are supposed to leave work at 5:30 for the day, your superior will come to you at 4:45 to 5 o'clock and throw a big report at you and says, this needs to be analyzed. I need a report by tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. They'll tell you just 30 minutes before we are supposed to finish up the work. Then it ends up, people end up working till midnight to finish the case. Or even for law firms, there's a case, urgent case that needs to be in court tomorrow. It comes out very suddenly. In most corporates, there are these demands and requirements. It has to be time critical all the time. It's constant. How do those people in corporates or legal firms or accounting firms who have constant deadlines, 365, they are not able to get out of this 5:30 or 6 o'clock syndrome? They end up working till midnight almost every night. How do they navigate this, Guruji?
Very good question. Now, if you can look at this question from the context of what we are saying, how the mind plays trick and the mind plays foul. The nature of the mind, as we said, is it tends to ramble. It tends to worry of the past and anxious of the future. So so this is happening every moment. Agree?
Yes.
So when the manager is at the desk from morning 9 o'clock, from morning 9 to 5, how many hours is that?
8.
I've never been a 9 to 5 job, so I don't know how many hours is that. We are 24 hours, not 9 to 5. So 9 to 5 is 8 hours.
Yeah.
Now think along with me, Harish.
Yes.
In that 8 hours, if your mind has been in the worries of the past and anxious of the future, go to the past and the future. 2/3 of the time, your mind has not been in the present. How many hours is that you're away from work while you are at work? 2/3 of 8 hours is what? Close to 5 hours?
Yeah, about 5. Yeah, about 5. Correct.
So in a day when you have put in 8 hours of work, 5 hours, your mind has not backed your action. What would be your efficiency levels?
Very low.
Only 1/3 of your potential you're operating. 2/3 of it is dissipated into the unproductive channels of the past and the future. If you are able to plug those dissipative channels and garner the energy and resources into the present, you will have ample time because you have done your job. Your efficiency is 100%. Now you're only operating 30% of your potential. 70% is not tapped at all. I'm talking mathematics. You're talking of work inundating your table. I'm talking of doing justice to the work. You are spending time which is being wasted. If you're able to concentrate at work from the time you're at desk, be at desk. The time you take 2 hours to finish a paper, you would finish in half an hour because of your efficiency, because your mind is in the moment. I'm sitting and writing and I'm doing some paperwork and suddenly mind goes off. Where does it go? Something you had to do, something that happened. If only I'm able to bring in that discipline of snapping the mind and just be that which takes you 2 hours, you'll finish in half an hour, 40 minutes. So you have 1.5 hours, and a quarter you have in your favor. So this is the discipline. If you are able to inject of being in the present, operating with the intellect and not worrying of the past and future, it makes you far more efficient. And there are always emergencies and contingencies you have to provide for, but your efficiency level shoots up. You're only operating 1/3 of your potential. Remember that. And that's a lot of energy to be wasting. 2/3 is being dissipated. A lot is being dissipated. Needless to mention the areas. In fact, it is said there are 3 big consumers of your mental energy. The 3 big consumers of your mental energy are guilt, fear, and unfulfilled expectations. I don't know how true it is. It is a saying. The 3 big consumers of energy, which is your mental energy, are guilt, fear, and unfulfilled expectations. Find out how much truth is there in that quote. It's a beautiful saying. So if so much of your energy is being wasted in all these channels, don't you think we should address that first, Harish? Then talking of the work the boss is presenting to you? How efficient am I, first and foremost? This is not being addressed because nobody's aware of it. In the biggest of corporates and multinationals, they are hiring you based on your talent, but they don't know how much capacity you have to concentrate and what's your efficiency level. They don't have this this ability to inject this discipline. So the entire workforce is just 30, 40, 50% at max, because everybody have this problem of not able to keep the mind in the present. Even now, the only person who's 100% in the class is me. Because I can't afford to allow my mind to wander even for a moment beyond the boundaries of this class. I will be totally flattered if anybody were to say, sir, I did not think of anything else even for a moment. For a second, my mind didn't think of anything else but every word you spoke. I need to think hard. I need to think clearly, carefully, every word I say. So I need to be in the present. But have you all observed every word I said? Every moment have you been there? I guarantee none of you have been there. But if any one of you are there, my prostrations to you. That is what I mean concentration. 1 hour and a quarter, I chose to be here, and yet I am not here 100%. So what is your efficiency level? Find out. To what extent have you been here? This is what I mean efficiency, Harish. 1 hour I'm here. To what extent are you here? I'm not complaining, I'm just analyzing, Harish. So the question is how to deal with all this overload of work, how to bring in the work-life balance. I'm saying bring in efficiency to your work. Work gets done much faster. You are far more available to attend and address all the other contingencies or emergencies that come your way. You're far more efficient. Work gets done much faster. Otherwise, things get piling up. So that's how you can address this concern.
Yeah, Guruji,
Hirenji, just a minute, sir. Kindly hold on, sir. Just a minute. Don't mute yourself.
Yeah.
No, no, you just hold on. No issues. Harish, are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
You're good? Okay. Right. Yes, Hirenji. Yes, sir.
Okay. I think, Guruji, I understood exactly what you said on the part of efficiency level. It definitely, it happens to a lot of us. But it's still, I don't feel that it directly answered the question that Harish has raised. It is for Harish to say more than I do, but the way I understood it, his question was, assuming that he or me or I'm efficient enough to spend my time correctly today, and at 5 o'clock or 4:30 or whatever it is, if my boss brings something which demands that everything has to be answered tomorrow, and it keeps happening repeatedly. In a lot of organizations, it does happen. And then the efficiency part does not come directly into the picture. However efficient I am, it gets very frustrating not being able to accomplish. And if I don't accomplish, I'm not a right person for the company. There could be others to do that. So how do you go about that?
So underlying that, there's a lot of anxiety. Underlying that, there is a desire to impress. There's underlying that there's insecurity. If I don't do, I will lose my job. All that plays heavy role. Even let's say at 5 o'clock, you got an important document, an important work, as you said, you have to prepare a presentation, something which would take you 4 hours, which would take you late into the evening. And if you are mentally calm, if you're intellectually alert, if you're in the present, that which take you 4 hours, you will finish in an hour and a half, or an hour, you're finished, you're done. No doubt there could be demands of work, but how efficient you are depends on your mental ability. If I harness my resources well, I'll be able to deal with that challenge much better. That's all I'm saying. If your organization is unrealistic, you will have to say, I don't want to work like a Japanese culture where they spend 20 hours at work. Therefore, Japan is the suicide capital of the world. I don't want to kill myself just trying to meet my ends. No, I want to live a life, not just make a living. I got to tell myself, am I to live that kind of life? To work 18, 20 hours in Japan is a norm, is accepted. Now, I will leave that country if I have to kill myself at work. It's in fact quite common. I'm told it's quite common. You find, I don't know how common it is. I don't want to be quoting wrongly, but I've heard many articles and quotes, articles saying they found people dead at their work table because they're working overnight. They haven't gone back home even to sleep or eat, and they found him dead at the workstation. Now, is that acceptable? Now, why you draw the line? If work comes at 5 o'clock, am I to sit with it throughout the night? And yet Japanese people are very efficient, and yet it is a disease in them. It's a state of rajas. Rajasic state of mind is where you're not able to get out of this involvement. You get too carried away. They're workaholics. But work, the very same work destroys you. Suicide capital of the world, sir. So I get where you're coming from, reiterating what Harish has said, but there is a line you've got to draw. I say enough is enough. At the same time, if you work simultaneously, if you work on your ability to produce, ability to be more efficient, it will start showing in the way you produce, the way you deal with your work and your efficiencies. So it has to be a fine balance. And you said, if some mail comes to you at 11 o'clock, I may see it, but I will not attend to it. I will have a peaceful, sound sleep for the next 6 hours. You've got to tell to yourself, the world is not going to come to an end if I don't reply this mail now. It shall wait, unless it's an emergency. The company will close down tomorrow if I don't send this mail. Then please send the mail, because company is not there. You'll not have job. Things like that. There are certain things like that. But otherwise, it certainly fits into the context, sir.
Thank you. Could I extend my discussion with a specific question? While I was working, and even now after retirement, I generally believe in multitasking, doing few things at the same time. And there is a strong debate in the corporate world. A lot of people say that do one thing, do it right. But somehow I was made to believe that you can do 4 or 5 things, and which will enhance your probably efficiency. Might go down at some point of time a little bit, but you'll be accomplishing much more than what somebody else could do. Is there an opinion on that? Just not going through discussion. That is something I have experienced and I still try to do. If I do something at home, I put 2, 3 things at the same time going parallel. Okay, come back and look at the other one. So I move quite a few things together. Is it something
Sir,
bad?
every day when I sit at the table enjoying the sumptuous meal the lady in the house has cooked, she has done so many multitasking at the same time. It's the stove you have at home is a 4-burner. On one stove is a sambar, other stove is a vegetable, other one is a dal, other one is a cooker, and then she's attending to other things, and yet none of it is non-proportionate. How much dal must be there in sambar is there. Imagine that dal which has to go to the sambar comes into the rice, and how much rice has to be there, it goes into the curry. How much this goes, it is a chaos. So there's something we can learn from them. And talking of corporations, I have never been a corporate man. So there are many other people with experience, they can clarify. But I think it's up to your capacity, how much you can manage. So whether you do it, how efficiently you do it is individualistic, I would feel. Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
No, I'm only ensuring that I get a meal when I go back home today. Please, you understand that. You have to work-life balance. This is my work. I have to balance my life also. So I'm protecting myself in that realm also.
Understand. Good.
Right, sir. RPG, boliye.
So you had used a term at the top of the conversation, the word architect.
Where?
You
When?
had said you had said something along the lines of the architect had created this situation with the mind and the body.
Okay.
The body not the body
Poetically.
cannot control the mind. Yeah, poetically.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting word that you used. And my question when you first said it, and I've kind of been I've revisited it as we've been talking
RPG,
and listening to you.
I said that an hour ago, and you're still thinking about it. How much have you concentrated in the class?
Well, there was a momentum of the class I didn't want to interrupt, and so I've waited
so
until
kind of
this
you.
point to
So sweet of
you.
you.
Yeah.
So this is why I like you. You know.
So it is when you said that, the thought that came into my mind was is the word architect capitalized? So is that architect as in like God, the Lord, or is it just the generic architect? So that was my question. What was your intent or meaning behind using that word?
See, philosophically, it's wrong to say that God created mankind. God did not create mankind.
Yeah.
So taking that element out of the equation. But when I said poetically, the architect means that's how the mind is. You know, we're talking about the nature, how it is created. It's not that in you the mind is restless and in me the mind is very mature. It's not like that. In everybody, even whether you can be a spiritual illiterate or a spiritual giant, even in him, the mind's nature can never change. It's the very nature of the mind to be. It will generate desires. It operates on likes and dislikes. The mind is impulsive. The mind gets attached. This is the very trait and nature of the mind. That doesn't change in a saint also. It's the same thing. But it is the wisdom and the intellect that empowers it so that it polices the mind. So all of this is, all providence is created. There's an architect, somebody out there has given us these equipments. You have a body, you've got a mind, you've got an intellect, you have a conscience. So a human is blessed with all these equipments. Don't know who has created it, who is the architect, but somebody has made that way. We got to accept it. So I started off by establishing that what the accent then is on the capacity to control. Don't complain the nature of the mind. It is a discipline you got to bring about a control in controlling the mind. To establish that, I said that word architect. You get it, Jay?
So the design is pure. What's happened is our lack of control, our fascination with the world, running to desires, that which has corrupted the overall design, this
malfunctioning.
Malfunctioning.
Short circuit, malfunctioning. I think the fuses are blowing up. That is what I'm seeing.
Got it.
Haryo, yes. Coming to Hariji's question, there are the 5 koshas. There's Annamaya kosha, the food sheath, Manomaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, the vitalized sheath, Manomaya kosha, the mental sheath, Vijnanamaya kosha, the intellectual sheath, and Anandamaya kosha, the bliss sheath. These are the 5 sheaths, the 5 layers which encircle the Atman, the pure consciousness. Now, these layers are gross to subtle. So the Annamaya kosha is the grossest, Superior to Annamaya Kosha is the vital air sheath. Superior to vital air sheath is the mental sheath. Superior to mental is the intellectual sheath. Superior to intellectual is the bliss sheath, which is the Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya Kosha. Now, the question Hariji is asking, he asked earlier, when you are agitated, you lose your normalcy of breath. Breath goes out of control. And we are told to bring back the mind under control. You are told to inhale deep breaths. So is it not contradictory that when we establish that the Pranamaya Kosha is inferior to Manomaya Kosha, is it not against the law which we said that the subtle controls the gross? Isn't it here happening? The gross is controlling the subtle. The breath is controlling the mind, is what I think the question is. Just raise your thumb. Okay, great. That's the question. Now, people suggest that take a deep breath because they don't know what else to advise. They will not tell you gain Vedantic wisdom. They will not tell you develop the intellect because they do not know. They will find an easy way out and say, take a deep breath. But breath cannot control the mind. The breath is a measure to know what this mind state is. So if your mind is agitated, your breath goes out of control. Your nervous system goes out of control. Your physical body loses its sense of normalcy. Your heartbeat rises. You start profusely sweating. All the diseases that your physical body exhibits are reflection of how healthy your mind is. Remember that, unless there's a normal natural wear and tear, that's a different thing. But many diseases that you have are a reflection of the mental state, and a continuous mental ill health reflects in heart disease, whether it's sugar or blood pressure or any other disease. In fact, people have sleeplessness, insomnia. It's a state of mind. It's nothing to do with the physical body. An unhealthy mind cannot sleep. So mere breath cannot control the mind. And many people are advocating meditation to control the mind. Now, meditation is a postgraduate spiritual exercise where your intellect is, let's say, 90%, 95% developed. Because meditation, remember, we define is the art of keeping the mind aloft on a chosen thought under the supervision of the intellect. So meditation is practiced when your intellect is very highly developed, where you can keep the mind on a chosen chant. So meditation cannot control the mind, nor pranayama can control the mind. These two are two extremities. What can control the mind is the wisdom with which you develop your intellect. It gives you the clarity so that you can keep the mind under constant supervision. Controlling is not strangling, sir. Controlling is like a parent having a supervision of a child. The child is free to do what it wants to do, but the parent constantly supervises the child. So the breath cannot control the mind, nor meditation, because meditation is not a tool to control the mind. Only a controlled mind can meditate. So there's no contradiction, Hariji. Okay. Yes, Hirenji.
But does it not help us in immediate terms to put a brake by physically slowing us down instead of getting faster, and will allow certain few seconds, which will help us, our intellect, to bring into, but what we are saying is that you have to be highly intellect or sufficiently intellect to even take a deep breath.
So it's like where a person comes to you, you're going for a walk. Somebody comes to you and he has actually ran 10 kilometers continuously. He's a runner, athlete. He comes to you and you say hi and he stops and talks to you. What is his breath level when he's talking to you?
Very fast. Yeah.
And he's trying to, hello, uncle, how are you? I have not seen you for long. You say, calm down, calm. Just catch your breath, catch your breath. When the breath comes back to normal, you can have a normal conversation.
Yeah.
When you are mentally agitated, breath goes out of control. So people tell you just deep breath, bring your breath back in control. That's all that's happening. You have taken it mistaken in saying breath will keep the mind calm. It is a natural thing. When you're gone, your breath is out of control. They say take a breath to control the breath, man. Breath can only control the breath. Breath cannot control the mind.
That I
Wrong
agree.
logic.
That I agree. But does it not help us getting a little bit
Conducive. Conducive. Yes, it can.
Conducive is the
help
right
you.
word.
It's help you. It's conducive, but you can't therefore say breath has controlled my mind. No.
No, I agree. I agree. Totally agree. Okay.
You get me, sir. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Most welcome. Ramji, parting message, sir.
No, sir, I think it was a very fascinating discussion. So I was thoroughly enjoying it. And because I went through a lot of life and I had to do work-life balance, in which I was not very successful. But I think what you have said, that concentrate, be efficient. But one counter to efficiency is that the more efficient people get more work. If you are inefficient, you won't get work, actually. So being efficient, I always attracted more work. Even now, I continue to attract more work. But that is, but as you said, I think you have to control your allocation, time allocation, and
Prioritize.
your prioritization. But everything goes back to how you use your intellect, right? And so many times I wonder how Draupadi applied her intellect, because she had 5 husbands. If a man is like having 5 husbands. You know, he has work, he has family, he has his passions, he has some sport, he has so many things, right? So how much of intellect she used to allocate time to 5 of them and be in the present when she was with each one of them, and not think of the others when she is with one of them. So I think it is a great art. It is a great art factor.
I will not ask you to do summaries anymore, because 1.5 hours I spoke. You said I spoke some sense. Now, after the class, what will linger in everybody's mind is Draupadi, but not what I said. They'll only remember you, whatever I said, sir. So you are stealing the show. I don't like this.
I'm just giving a very mundane example to people so that they also.
It's a beautiful example. Isn't it? It's a beautiful example. I never had that. Never looked at Draupadi from that angle. In fact, it's very interesting perspective. Really appreciate that. Sorry, sir. Please complete. I keep
No,
intruding.
I was just saying that it depends on how you use your intellect to divide your time. And many times I took the role of an observer when I was going through those phases. That how do I allocate my time? How do I look at different passions that I have, or different works I have, and things like that. That helped me through, although not very successful, because my mind was still dominating most of the time. But I think it was a very good discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it flew very well, the various aspects, elements, how it fitted in. By the end of the day, the problem still lurks. You must understand the mind presents itself as a considerable source of distraction, and you need to be ever alert. Like you're driving on a highway, you got to be ever alert. Never know what's going to happen. Similarly, ever be alert to what the mind can do, and start enjoying every action, how insignificant it can be. You got to enjoy the action. Exactly like, like now we'll do the Shanti mantra. You got to understand what it means, feel it, enjoy it. Even every simple thing that we do has a significance. So eke the most is like, now summer has come in India. Every corner you find, you have this sugarcane machines which keep giving you the wonderful fresh sugarcane juice. And if you stand by and just watch them, that single sugarcane, he will pass through those rollers until there's nothing else but the pulp can come. There's no further juice left. So he'll keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and eke the last possible drop of sugarcane from that. In that sense, enjoy every moment of your life, eke the best out of it, let it enrich you. And the only way to do that is to live in the present. And then you will realize there's no worry that destroys your life. Let's live that life. Let's radiate that joy and let that become infectious. You become ambassadors of this principle and let it spread in the communities, in your workforce. We owe it, don't we? We have to set the tone. Yes, Kashish?
Guruji, when you were saying be infectious and let that joy spread, it reminded me of what my uncle and I talked about last week after class, which is a phrase called rising tide raises all ships. And he said I should share it this week just as like it felt like it matched the sentiment of what you were saying. Like when you're being present and living in the moment, you're setting the example, then you're like a rising tide that raises all the ships. That's all I wanted to say.
So beautiful. Very nice. But you know, Haresh is very selfish. He doesn't share all these things with me. I'm very angry with him. I know that's the partiality he has for you and me. It's okay. I have, with a heavy heart, I have to close the class today. It's okay.
One minute, Guruji. I asked Kashi to share it with you because she articulates it so much better. So I asked her to.
No. Every moment of it, I am enjoying, and I hope everybody on screen are enjoying. It just makes a whole sharing of this wisdom so lively. You know, we're all a wonderful family, and it makes the learning such a pleasure, isn't it? Yeah. Thanks to each one of you who make this experience very refreshing and very, because when I come, I don't have a script, and it's you all that make that whole, give a script to the class and how it goes, you know. So it's truly a relishing and a wonderful experience. All right. Thank you. We'll come back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.